Hogwash. Clients mad at me, they didn't respond. Hogwash. A relative said that they're going to hunt me from the grave if I didn't do what they wanted me to do. Hogwash. You're not good enough. You'll never be able to do it on your own. Hogwash. There's no way that you're going to be able to run a marathon. Hogwash. Okay, we are going to be talking about hogwash. Welcome to episode 195 of the podcast. Podcast is called Most People Don't, But You Do. We have stories and conversations about things that are going to help people feel better, do better, and be better. Today's a solo episode 195. And the reason why I wanted to make sure I brought this to everyone's attention is because recently it has been helping me tremendously. Hogwash, rewriting the lies that we tell ourselves. If you actually go and look at the dictionary and you look up hogwash, it is meant to reflect way back when people would feed their pigs on a farm, they would toss them anything that was worthless and not meaningful to the family. That's it. They were leftovers. It was insignificant. If the family couldn't benefit by eating it, it was going to be then shared with the pigs. That's what hogwash is. Over time, it evolved for slang to mean ideas or statements that are false, foolish, or misleading. And to me, it's just a fun word. If things are bothering me, I have to think, is it true? Is it worth worrying about? Or is it purely hogwash? To the point where, and Terry, my wife, has helped me come up with this to be able to restructure things, I keep a list. I keep track of things that are hogwash, and that's under the H column. And then we have another column right next to it, which is T for truths. So when things are bothering you, I want you to evaluate, is it the truth or is it pure hogwash? Is it nonsense? Is it not true? Most often, I think we're going to find that the things that we are worried about are not true. So there were some studies done. That talk about the average person has 60,000 thoughts go through their mind every single day. If we drill down a little bit farther, 80% of the thoughts are negative. That's a lot. 95% are repetitive. That's also a lot. And then 85 to 90% of the worries never happen. Here's a quote. Most of what runs through your mind isn't new. Much of it isn't kind. And the majority of negative things never happen. And how it can help us is that if we are writing these things down, remember, 95% of the thoughts are repetitive. If we can write them down and identify them and label them even as hogwash, or I was even thinking the other day that when the negative thoughts come into my mind, I'm going to label them either hogwash or suck. But I think hogwash just makes me laugh a little bit more. If we recognize them and if we write them down, our subconscious knows that they are going to be taken care of because they're written down somewhere. It's not going to make it then come up to our consciousness and say, that client is mad at me. I have to recognize it. I have to push it back down to the subconsciousness where it's going to lie. If we write it down, there are also scientific studies that share this. If we write it down, it's not going to keep on going from your subconsciousness to your consciousness. Therefore, you're going to have less repetitive thoughts. Imagine if you have less repetitive thoughts during a day. Imagine if you have less worrisome thoughts during the day. You then can fill your mind with good things, with positive things, with I can do it. I am good enough. The world is abundant. Happiness, health, financial security come easy to me. Imagine how vast your world would expand if you are allowing room in your mind to have positive thoughts. That's what we're going to be discussing a little bit today because it hits home for me. certainly hits home for me. Today's episode, we want it to be able to help change the way that you talk to yourself. The word hogwash is not a word that you hear every single day. It is going to help define the concept in your voice because hogwash is the junk that we carry that simply isn't true. That client wasn't mad at me. That relative couldn't hunt me from the grave. I can run a marathon. I can do a TEDx talk. You can focus on fitness. You can get a new opportunity. You can improve your relationship. But it's this unexamined story that we tell ourselves, and it's about time that we call it out. Hogwash is meaningless. It's nonsense. It's lies dressed up like logic. The psychological meaning of hogwash, the false beliefs we internalize based on fear, perfectionism, past rejection, or assumption. I'm getting ready to present in a few weeks a new topic, and it's going to be called. I'd like to give a shout out and a very big thanks to our sponsor for today's podcast episode. It is wishes.inc. Here's a great connection between hogwash and giving through wishes. Many people carry hogwash thoughts like, my small donation is not going to make a difference. I don't have enough money to help. People won't use the money wisely. Well, these are stories. These are not truths. That is hogwash. Because what this organization has created, wishes.inc, has built to erase all the hogwash we tell ourselves about giving, because it provides documentation and transparency showing you that every gift counts. You can literally see the impact. You can help instantly without red tape. You get rewarded emotionally and financially. And then generosity does not need to be complicated. It can be joyful, direct, and fulfilling. Don't believe everything you think, especially when it tells you that your help doesn't matter. It certainly does, and wishes.inc proves it. There's going to be a link to the website off of our show notes, but if you would like some more information, please go to wishes.inc, trigger, glimmer, awe. It is ways to be able to rewrite your story in order to be able to, 1, feel better, 2, do better, and 3, be better. This idea of hogwash connects to trigger because hogwash shows up when we get emotionally triggered. It's the first draft of a story and it's usually wrong. They're mad at me because they didn't reply. That's hogwash. The truth is they're probably just too busy. No response doesn't mean rejection. Maybe the email went to spam. Maybe they're on vacation. Maybe they retired. Maybe they found a new position. It doesn't mean that they're mad. Hogwash. I always mess things up. Well, the truth is I've succeeded more times than I've failed, and so have you. Failure is data. Failure is a way to be able to get better and improve. Hogwash. No one sees your effort. Guess what? The right people notice, and you notice, and that's what matters the most. I want you to steal this tool. Open up a notes app or grab a pen and paper, make 2 columns. First column is hogwash. Second column is truth. It goes back to the damage of believing hogwash. This is why it matters. It's all about these false beliefs shape your behavior. Did some additional studies and additional research. And there's a reason why things like this happen. That your brain is wired for threats, not for joy. There was a study 2001 by Baumeister and team that bad is stronger than good. And this meta-analysis showed that negative events have a greater impact on psychological behavior than positive ones. It is evolutionarily adaptive to give greater attention to threats than opportunities. Because think about it, when we were cave people, It was about survival. It wasn't about making games and having fun. It was about living. It was about surviving. It wasn't about thriving. Then there's another element that is called negativity bias, which means it's a tendency for us as human beings to focus more on the negative than on the positive. Moving from trigger, glimmer to awe, trigger is when things happen to us. It is something that we notice, that we observe, that is coming toward us, something that someone says, a reason of how we feel. It triggers us to feel a certain way. And it can be making us feel anxious. From a mental perspective, it can make us feel stuck. From a physical perspective, it can make us feel tired. Step one that we're going to be talking about today, again, it is recognizing what is triggering us, what is hogwash, and what is truth. I go back to some of my initial stories. I was doing this exercise, which I will be then sharing with some of our future attendees. I was doing this exercise and I was identifying what is the story that I tell myself and when was I triggered. So I was triggered when, and I'll share with you, when I had an out of body experience, when I was going through nose surgery when I was 12 or 13 years old. I heard the surgeons and the nurses say, "He's out, let's get started." I couldn't move, but I could hear them beginning the surgical instruments. And I couldn't talk, and it felt like my body was on top of the operating table and my consciousness was underneath, but I was stuck. It was terrifying. So I was triggered when I had an out of body experience as a child. And the second step is, well, how did that make me feel? And that made me believe blank. That made me believe that I had no control over what was happening. That made me believe that I couldn't trust doctors. That made me believe that the right people wouldn't take care of me if something went wrong. That truly became the foundation from age, right, 12 or 13 to the time that I left for college. I would say to my parents before I went to sleep, "I'll see you tomorrow, right? I'll see you tomorrow, right?" Why? Because I was afraid that I would die in my sleep. But if I had the affirmation that my parents said, "I'll see you in the morning," I knew, I believed then that gave me enough confidence, enough trust that I could finally fall asleep and I wouldn't die in my sleep. Sad from 12, 13 years old to 18 years old. But that was my trigger moment. And that made me believe something. I'm trying to use that now from a good perspective, from a positive element, because I am always now trying to look out for people. I'm always trying to help out the underdog. I want to help people feel better, do better, and be better. I want to help because when I was a kid, no one knew what to do to help me. I was afraid of passing out. I was afraid of going into a mall because there was no easy access. I was afraid of traveling. I was afraid of driving through a tunnel because what if I would pass out and I would crash my car into the side of a tunnel? Horrible, horrific things. And it wasn't until I met my wife that she said, "You don't need to live like this." Thank you, Terry. You don't need to live like this. You can begin to rewrite your story. And we will go through over the next couple of weeks. I'll make sure that I include some additional conversations about glimmer and awe, but you can write your story. You can have a different ending. My story was that I was afraid that no one would take care of me if something happened. And it goes full circle to the moment of glimmer. You can see people beginning to take care of others when they need it. And then finally to awe. And I don't want to give away my awe story quite yet. I'll wait a few weeks to be able to share the awe moment with you. But if I did it, I know you can do it. Don't don't live the lie anymore. When you don't examine the hogwash, you start living like hogwash is the entree that you want to save on your table. and you don't need to let it go. Let it go. Step one, recognize the trigger. Step two, write down the hogwash, write down the truth, and begin to think about it differently. Hogwash is mud on the lens. You can clean it off and you can see the light. That's going to be your glimmer. So now it's your turn. What's your most common hogwash statement? Write it down. What are you hearing from others, or what are you telling yourself that simply isn't true? Next column, what is the truth that you want to replace it with? And make your own hogwash versus truth list. Please feel free to share them with us. Next future conversations, I will read a few on additional episodes. Email me, bart@mostpeopledon't. The rest of this week, realize this. We all carry hogwash. The key is to call it out, to clean it up, and to replace it with the truth. Next solo conversation, we are going to talk about glimmer. And those are tiny moments that remind you of what's good and what's real. And then later, the moments that make you stop and think and pause. Things are good. I am lucky. I am fortunate. We'll also share some tactics on how to feel it more often and how to live in wonder and not to live in worry. Thank you so much for joining us for this solo episode of the podcast. Most people don't, but you do. My name is Bart Berkey. If you like this type of conversation, please subscribe, forward, share. We want to continue to our best to fulfill the mission of helping people feel better, do better, and be better. Thank you.